Welcome to the That's Based audio only midweek check-in. Remember, we do this every Wednesday. We're on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. The big show drops every Saturday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on all of the aforementioned platforms, plus Rumble and whatever other video platforms we are not banned from. We're brought to you by Outlaw Streamers. I'm your unlawfully wedded host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, and we're laughing our way through the end of days. Of course, you can follow me at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok, at Caleb Salvatore on Rumble and YouTube. Help me out with my personal Rumble. I got like nothing. I can't figure that algorithm out. I don't have enough time. It is what it is. Cool. We got that out. Midweek check-in. Like I said, we do this every Wednesday. And we go off about, whatever's going on in the world that maybe we missed. Maybe the stuff that wasn't big enough to make it on the big show because we got to limit it. I mean, we don't want to do a 3-hour show. You know what I mean? So we try to just hash some stuff out. Couple topics here. First up, my favorite politician in Washington. That's right. New York City Republican Congressman George Santos. He's back. He's running for re-election. He's doing it. George Santos, the king, the future president, the dandy boy, dapper, first openly gay MAGA conservative elected to office. George Santos. I can't wait. This guy is the best troll out there. He is such an effective... People don't even realize. George Santos, no one takes George Santos seriously from a legislative perspective. That's not why he's so effective. George Santos is effective as a distraction. The amount of members of the... Listen, this is one Republican congressman from New York City that really doesn't have any say in anything. The amount of energy that is wasted from left-wing pundits, left-wing politicians, left-wing activists, and left-wing media members on this guy that could be spent anywhere else is more effective, and it goes so much further than his one vote in the Senate or in the House. Excuse me, not the Senate. You can't. Plus he plays the role so well. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he's dead in the water, figuratively speaking, of course. Hopefully, he knows he has no chance at being reelected. He's going to lose the primary, and if he somehow squeaks his way out of the primary, he's going to get the floor mopped with him in the general. That's a given, but he doesn't care. He's playing into it. He said, I will, listen, yeah, everything I said was a lie, but I will not step down, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm just going to keep going. And he's got this smirk on his face every time you see him. It's hilarious. How do you not like this guy? All of his social media, it's just troll posts. Like we showed a video on the big show of That Space last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think, of him breaking down the fashion designs of NASA's new uniforms. It's hilarious. How do you not like George Santos? He's our next president. He has to be. He has to be. At least he's been outed as a liar, and the media doesn't pretend. The media doesn't turn a blind eye to it. He has to be. And honestly, so what? So what? Guy lied about going to Harvard. Joe Biden lied about his degree. He said he graduated top of his class. He forgot the name of his school. And then you come to find out he was at the bottom of his class. He barely even passed. Who cares? We elected him president, quote unquote elected. Who cares? Who cares? Every politician is a liar. Lying is the least lying is the least bad thing that politicians do, okay? When I see a guy, George Santos, liar. Okay, cool. He's a liar. Is he a pedophile? Is he a murderer? Is he a war criminal? No? Okay, perfect. What's wrong with him then? Do you have anything else on him other than that he's a liar? If not, then I don't really care. I really don't. He's qualified to be president from that alone. All he did was lie. That's the thing, is politicians got caught in lies 20 years ago. It was career ruining. Now it's like, I hear, so-and-so lied. This politician lied about this and that. He was a fraud. But I'm like, and? What else did he do? I would love to see what else he did, because this doesn't seem like enough. This is not disqualifying by today's standards. You got Joe Biden, who may or may not have showered with it was either his daughter or granddaughter. His son's a crackhead, pimping out underage, sleeping with underage prostitutes. And then you find out George Santos, yeah, he lied about what college he went to and his job. Okay. What else? What else did he do? That's all you got? Let me pull his social media up. This is hilarious. He just owns it. He'll just every now and then he'll just post a period because he knows it gets engagement, because just the hate that he gets. Just a period gets 643 responses. And you have people out here, this is the only thing you've ever said that wasn't a lie, but it gets him attention. I mean, you can hate George Santos all you want, but it's like I said, at least the media is out front about his lies. At least there's no denial there. He loves to harass Mitt Romney. And it just eats at people, because sometimes when he takes personal shots at different politicians, the Democrats' right-wing sacred cows like Mitt Romney, George Bush, people like that, when he takes shots at them, he'll just shut the responses off. You can't reply to George Santos. And that just eats at them, because they can't reply and they can't feel like their voice is being heard. Because it really does, if you think about it, take a certain level of narcissism to want to reply to people's tweets like that and think that anyone cares and think it's making any type of difference. You just want that these people just want that dopamine rush of feeling like they owned this politician or this media figure or whatever. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is running for president. That's right, JFK's nephew. And I got to tell you, man, this guy sounds like he is walking a dangerous path to meeting the same fate as his uncle with some of the stuff he's saying. I mean, he's talking about how his uncle basically, he didn't outright say it in this campaign kickoff speech, but was talking about how his uncle basically got whacked by the CIA and the intelligence agencies because he went against them. I mean, he dared to question the V word. We call it the V word because otherwise we get flagged by Spotify. If Spotify flags you for COVID misinformation, if you're scrolling through podcasts and you see, flagged for COVID misinformation, you should immediately know this is interesting. This is going to be an entertaining show. I mean, he's gone out against the endless wars. He's gone out against Big Pharma. And this is what I tell people, because people are comparing Robert Kennedy Jr. to his campaign in 2024 to Bernie Sanders. There's a big difference here. Bernie Sanders never went after the sacred cows of the regime. Bernie Sanders, he's like that comedian. It's just edgy enough. He'll walk up to the line, tiptoe over it, and then pull back real quick. He never really crosses what society's deemed to be the line, and Bernie's never crossed the regime's line in terms of what you can and can't go after. Bernie Sanders, yeah, I mean, he ruffles the feathers of the ruling and elite class or whatever, but he's more of a fly that's buzzing around your house. It's like you'll zap it, you'll swat it if you can, but it's annoying, but a lot of the time, it's not a priority. You know what I mean? You're not going to spend, some people will, I guess, but most people aren't going to spend all day hunting this fly down, trying to take it out, unless you got a bunch of them, in which case, clean your house, you filthy slobs. RFK, he's like a wasp in your house. That's a priority. You cannot let that wasp stay there because it's going to create havoc. It's going to cause all hell to break loose in your house. RFK has gone after the sacred cows. Big Pharma and the military-industrial complex and the intelligence agencies. Those are their three sacred cows. You do not touch those three things in today's Democratic Party, and his campaign kickoff speech went after all of them. So Bernie Sanders is, like I said, just inconvenient to them. RFK, if his campaign, he's not going to win. Breaking news. He's not going to win the primary. They won't allow it. They have super delegates to fix it. He's not going to win. But RFK, if he starts making some noise, you're going to see what they did to Tulsi Gabbard. He's much more comparable to Tulsi Gabbard. He's much more comparable to Ron Paul and people like that than he is Bernie Sanders. Because you saw when Tulsi Gabbard destroyed Kamala Harris, who was their hand-picked favorite to win, absolutely obliterated her, dropped her poll numbers below 1% in that debate, you saw just a full-fledged lockstep media propaganda campaign by the regime's propaganda arm just full force against Tulsi Gabbard. Like, that's the hardest the Democrats have sent a woman of color to the back of the bus since Rosa Parks. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. You're going to see something similar here if it gains any ground. He's not going to win. They know he's not going to win. They want to make sure he doesn't change the culture of the Democratic Party. Because you have people like that, like Ron Paul with the Republicans in 2008 and 2012. You have a guy that might actually shift the culture of the party. The establishment of said party is not on board with that, and the propaganda arms are going to come out in full force. Like when they were calling Ron Paul a Nazi and a guy that just wanted heroin addicts to be just falling asleep in the middle of elementary schools and all that stuff that wasn't true. Ron Paul didn't do himself any favors, taking money from the white supremacists, granted, but I digress. Tulsi Gabbard, same thing. Whole regime comes out in lockstep against her. Hillary Clinton, every single media company in the country comes out in lockstep. Tulsi Gabbard's a Russian asset because she doesn't want to, go to nuclear war over countries that wouldn't piss on us if we were on fire. How dare she? I know. It's horrible. They came out in lockstep against her. It was the same thing. You're going to see the same thing with RFK. If there's any type of ground that's gained there, the media will come out in lockstep, and it's just going to be nonstop, 24/7 news coverage. RFK bad. They're going to dig up ex-girlfriends. They're going to whatever they can find to destroy this guy's reputation. Because it's not about defeating him. It's about making sure he doesn't spark change in the Democratic Party. And I have a lot of hope for this guy. Again, he's not going to win. Let's make that clear. He will not win. But I sincerely hope that he can spark a culture change in the Democratic Party that will at least bring them closer to the center and at least bring them further away from the establishment and the regime, big companies and the intelligence agencies. At least I'm hoping he can do something like that. Right now, Biden hasn't announced, so RFK is the lead candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination. Now, that'll change, obviously, but it's funny to say that Robert Kennedy Jr. is currently the lead candidate for the Democratic nomination. I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. Let's stay on the politics. Trump versus DeSantis. The race is heating up. DeSantis has kind of looked foolish going out being a dancing monkey in Washington, but I think this is going to be more interesting if DeSantis does declare for the presidency in 2024, which I don't know. It's starting to seem less and less like he will. What we're going to see, it's not going to be like 2016, where Trump ran away with it because he was attacking people as the anti-establishment candidate, and he was attacking his opponents from the right. He was calling out all these people who were corrupted, and he was right. And he was calling out all these people for selling out conservative voters, and he was right? Now is different. He's attacking DeSantis from the left. He's attacking DeSantis for his stance on Disney. He came out and said that he came out and criticized DeSantis for not locking down Florida for longer, talking about their COVID deaths and things and case rates and things like that. He's attacking DeSantis from the left, all while bragging about being the one that brought out the vaccine, right? See, I think it's hilarious that lock the country down vaccine salesman Trump is attacking anyone on COVID, trying to secure the Republican nomination. Now, how much will this matter is another question. I think it will be more interesting. I don't think that he'll be able to just run away with it when people realize that he's actually attacking DeSantis from the left. He and from the pro-establishment side. Trump is attacking DeSantis on COVID policy, on, banning trans kids from, not trans kids, banning transition surgeries for minors, on the Disney nonsense. He's attacking DeSantis, not just from the left. He's attacking DeSantis from the pro-establishment side. What's more pro-establishment than Big Pharma and Disney? I mean, he might as well just join up with the intelligence agencies at this point. It will be more interesting. I don't know who I support. It probably won't be either of them in the primary. It probably won't. I don't even know who I'd vote for with a gun to my head at this point. There's a lot of baggage there with both of them. Obviously, I'd vote for either of them over Biden. That goes without saying. But as far as I don't know. I'd have to see the field. I saw Larry Elder just announced. I'm a fan of him. I like him. I like Chris Sununu from New Hampshire. I think he's not going to neither of those guys will win, but I think they'd both be great fits for it. So I'd have to see. I'd have to see the full field before I made an endorsement. Not that any of you give it, right? Not that any of you guys are going to make your decision based on who your fourth favorite radio blowhard talk host picked, right? So it's okay. It's okay. Next up, the Kansas City shooter, the guy who shot that kid in Kansas City, Ralph Yarl, that went and knocked on the door. It's starting to sound like there's a little bit more to that than we may have initially been told. Like with a lot of these shootings, it's starting to sound like, well, there may be a little bit more to the story than some kid knocking on the door. I don't know. We're recording this Saturday, so we'll see. But his grandson, the shooter's grandson, came out on CNN, of course, and he basically just bashed his grandfather. Just bashed his grandfather. Called him a white supremacist, called him a Nazi, and then Don Lemon said, why? Don Lemon, the voice of reason. You know it's bad when Don Lemon is the voice of reason, right? Don Lemon came out, or Don Lemon asked, that's who was interviewing him. Don Lemon asked him, why do you say your grandfather is a racist? And he said, his answer was that he is an American Christian older white male that watches Fox News. That's just how they are. That's just how they are. Mind you, his grandson is a white guy with cornrows or dreadlocks. I can't even tell what this is I'm looking at. This guy's a loser. He saw an opportunity to push his woke agenda, and his grandfather was the collateral damage from it. And his Twitter account's it's since been removed, but he's full-blown leftist whack job. Just a full-blown far-left lunatic. With his bio, and he's got, it's all anti-Christian, this and that. It's complete insanity, and it's clear what's going on. That's how a lot of these people are. The problem is when you've dehumanized the other side for so long to your base that already objectively suffers from mental illness at a higher degree than any other demographic in the country. When you've dehumanized anyone who thinks differently than you for so long, this is what they do. Your grandfather becomes collateral damage in your quest to push wokeism, in your quest to push your agenda. Hey, I get on CNN. Who cares if I have to abandon my grandfather? When I heard, that his son came out and said he was a racist, I'm like, okay, or grandson, excuse me, said he was a racist. I'm like, okay, what did he have? Maybe he had some real racial comments or anything. No. So he was an old white guy that watched Fox News. That doesn't make him a racist. Shut up. How stupid are you? Give me a break, man. How dumb do you have to be? How dumb do you think people are that you came out and pushed this? It really is sickening, the lack of respect we have for our elders in this country. And that's really where the downfall starts at, if you think about it. It's just sheer lack of respect for your elders that we see here. I couldn't imagine. You know what? Even if my grandpa was a white supremacist, or maybe a little racist, maybe it's like that baby boomer. Because that's the thing, man. There's two types of racism. There's legitimate burning a cross in someone's yard, swastika tattoos on your forehead, scumbag racism. And then there's that baby boomer racism. And I'm not excusing it. It's ignorant. But the baby boomer racism is much more... It's much easier to get them away from that. It's much more teachable. Coachable. That's the word I'm looking for. It's much more coachable. You know, those casual little comments. Well, I just don't understand why they have to play their music so loud. Things like that. That is much more redeemable than the other type that I just talked about. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was him. Those are people that are ignorant. Those are people that grew up in a segregated time, and they weren't exposed to black people. They weren't exposed to Hispanic people or Asian people, whatever. And that's no excuse. The resources are there. I get it. They're stuck in their ways. Old people are a little bit tough like that. But that's your job as a grandson to try to help him see the light, to try to guide him out of that mindset. And you can't do that. You refuse to do that. Instead, you go on a press tour and bash him. You as a grandson, as a grandchild, if your grandparents are making racial comments or whatever, it is your job, either as a child or a grandchild, I should say, it is your responsibility to help them see why that's not okay. Not go on CNN and call him a Nazi. But this wasn't about his grandpa. It wasn't about the shooting. It was only about him. It was only about him and advancing the woke agenda that he's been brainwashed to for the last however many years, and getting that exposure, getting his 15 minutes of fame. Here, I found his former Twitter account. His name is Damned. He's got pictures of pentagrams, and I'm assuming this is some other type of cult. I am a human male. Hail Satan. We don't have to listen to the lunatic ravings of this paranoid hippie. That's a quote. Trans rights. Abolish prisons. ACAB. BLM. Abolish prisons. That's real smart. That's abolish prisons. That's great. So what do we do with rapists and human traffickers and murderers and home invaders and things like that? We just set them free? These people don't think. They say things because it's shocking and it feels good. They don't actually think. No, I agree. I'll be the first one to tell you. There's some problems with policing in this country. Absolutely. Abolishing them that's just stupid. I'm sorry, call me crazy. I would like to have someone out there, to stop murderers, to arrest murderers, to arrest rapists and child molesters. So even if you don't stop them when it happens the first time, you stop them from doing it again. You get a bad person off the streets. I would like to have someone out there that could stop drunk drivers. That could, if I get hit in a car accident and, my car's on fire, might come and pull me out of it because he's the first responder there. I would prefer to have that type of emergency service. I don't know about, maybe I'm weird. Am I weird? Maybe I'm just weird. I would prefer to have a place where we send very bad and violent, and I agree, nonviolent drug offenders shouldn't be in prison. I get it. I agree. But I would like to have a place where we send bad, violent people, murderers, rapists, child molesters, human traffickers, fentanyl dealers, pimps, whatever, home invaders, bank robbers, you name it. I would like to have a place where we send those people where they're away from the rest of society, where they're locked up and separate from us, and we're safe from them. It's not a perfect system. It's not flawless. There probably could be some reform to it that we could do. Not going to fight you there, but I would like to have a place where those people go to where I don't have to worry about them walking down the street. What's funny is this same guy, guarantee you he supports gun control. Guarantee he supports gun control. But God forbid you defend yourself from one of those rapists that he's let out onto the streets because we've abolished prisons. Also, all cops are bastards until he needs them to enforce COVID lockdowns, gun control, or you respecting his pronouns. All cops are bad. I love that. Abolish the police. Anti-gun. What? How are you going to take the guns? How are you going to enforce that? Are you going to come take them? All right, cool. You hate the cops so much. Who's going to... You hate the cops until they're carrying out your agenda. If we lived in a socialist hellscape, you'd like him. Well, he probably wouldn't because he'd die in the gulag that he's begging that I get sent to. But regardless, if we had these people hate the cops until it comes time to push their agenda. That's what it really comes down to. That's all that matters. It's just their agenda. They don't like the agenda, and the agenda being, they're stopping lawlessness and crime because they love lawlessness and crime. They hate guns, love lawlessness and crime. Cool. It's almost like there's an agenda there because we're in a controlled demolition. I don't know. I say that a lot, don't I? Because I'm right. Last up, and we'll get you out of here. The former CIA chief admitted that he was pressured by the Biden campaign to orchestrate a letter claiming the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. So before Joe Biden even took office, we've already seen that Biden was harassing Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all those apps. He was harassing his campaign and the regime as a whole, the pharmaceutical companies and larger corporations. They were coming after these big tech companies and asking them to remove things that might be detrimental to their campaign. True or not? They said, hey, can you call this misinformation? No research was done. They yanked it. Matt Taibbi did that. We'll have a deeper dive into that on the big show this Saturday. Now it comes out that not only was the Biden campaign in cahoots with big tech, you had a guy who wasn't a government employee, Joe Biden, in his campaign. They were not government employees. They had not yet been elected, quote unquote. You had a guy who had not even been elected. He hadn't assumed the role of the presidency, collaborating with the intelligence agencies. You can believe whatever you want. You can think whatever you want about Trump. If you don't believe that there was a concerted effort by the regime, by the intelligence agencies, by the big tech companies, by the pharmaceutical companies to get this guy out of office, you're too far gone. You don't have to like Trump, but you can accept the fact that there were some people in high up positions, some important people, some scary, spooky people who didn't want him there because he was detrimental to their agenda, to their end game, which is to secretly run the country. I'm not talking about the Jews. I always have to preface that because every now and then I'll go on about the people that secretly and actually control this country, and I'll get comments like, "Yeah, we got to stop the Jews, my white brother." I'm like, "Okay, relax. That's not what I'm saying. You missed the point. You missed the point." But yeah, so it comes out now. I mean, for all the talk about Russian collusion in 2016, that was all false, and still no one's apologized for. It was all fake. You have actual collusion here in the United States. You have actual collusion of a presidential campaign that had not been elected. Even if it was Trump doing it, he shouldn't have been able to do that. Even if the active president, the sitting president, was collaborating with intelligence agencies, he shouldn't have been able to do that. But he did. Joe Biden did it. President who wasn't even elected yet was having stories that were detrimental to his campaign removed, and 40 to 60% of voters said that would have directly affected who they voted for, of swing voters, excuse me. You had a guy who wasn't elected yet that was collaborating with the intelligence agencies. What incentive do the intelligence agencies have to collaborate with any presidential campaign? Well, it's because one of them is in their back pocket and the other one isn't. Donald Trump didn't do what the CIA, what the intelligence agencies, the pharmaceutical companies, whatever, didn't do what they wanted him to do to the T. And not to the degree they wanted to. He sold out a lot for my taste, but not to the degree they wanted him to. He did stand firm on a couple things. That's great. Joe Biden is owned by those people. They know a geriatric, dementia-ridden puppet whose brain is decaying on an international scale is someone who they can very easily pull the strings of. So this is real collusion. This is real election interference. You had American tech companies and American intelligence agencies actually get caught red-handed colluding with the presidential campaign, and no one's crying, "Oh, election fraud, election collusion, they stole the election," like they were with Trump. Isn't that crazy, the double standard? Because the media is just another arm of the regime. They are just the propaganda arm of it. They work for Biden. Not Biden. They work for the regime as a whole. I gotta quit calling him that. I give him way too much credit acting like he's the one pulling the strings here, because he's not. He's not. He's a stuttering moron with dementia. Anyway, that has been our show. It's Saturday, April 22nd. I got a show tonight. I guess I shouldn't even promote it because this won't air till Wednesday. Cool. I'm recording watched the Nebraska spring game today. I'm so happy college football is back. Like, you don't even realize. I spent the last 5 months where the only time I could yell at a 19-year-old kid was when my Dunkin' order got screwed up, and I'm just so happy that my Saturdays will fill my heart again to where I can abuse college kids for screwing things up once again. I don't just have to do it at at fast food restaurants and in places like that. I'm so happy. I'm so happy right now. Anyway, that has been the show. Make sure you share around with your friends. We do this every Wednesday for the audio check-in. Every Saturday, you get the big show of That's Based with Caleb Salvatore. 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, Rumble, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We are brought to you by Outlaw Streamers. Go to www.outlawstreamers.com where you can learn way more. It's an awesome, awesome website. I think they got an app coming soon. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that or not. If I'm not, they'll bleep it out. Or they won't, and then they'll just yell at me. Like, why did you spoil that? I don't care. They know they're working with a loose cannon. That's cool. They know what they signed up with. Know what they signed up for. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram. Caleb Salvatore Comedy on TikTok. Caleb Salvatore on YouTube and Rumble. Do I have anything else I want to plug? No. Hit me up if you want merch. Caleb at CalebSalvatoreComedy.com. I got to figure this godforsaken website out, and I got to find the time to do it. So in the meantime, you want merch, hit me on my email, Caleb at CalebSalvatoreComedy.com. We will get it figured out. You can also contact me on the Outlaw Streamers website. Thank you guys so much. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. Peace out, and stay based.